I do want to talk about Dr. Martin Luther King's life and his legacy with you, but I do have to start with this issue surrounding the documents. I want to ask you about what you heard from Debbie Stabenow. She called this embarrassing for the White House. Do you agree with her? Do you agree with that assessment?
Well, I think that's one way you can assess it. I understand the president himself is a bit upset with the way it's been handled, and I suspect you're always uncomfortable when something like this were to happen. But I think he handled it the right way. His people seem to have responded by the book, so to speak. And of course, you don't know how these things occur. When you're packing up stuff, you're leaving the office, you don't do it all yourself, and you have no idea what may get put in boxes. And I doubt very seriously if the president went to go through all those boxes. I just finished packing up to get out of the whip office. I have not looked in those boxes. I have no idea what staff may have put in them, and maybe sometime between now and the 12th of November, I'll get a chance to look at them.
Well, Congressman, let me follow up with you on a couple of points that you make there. You say that's one way to put it. What word would you use? Do you think this is embarrassing for the president and for his staff?
Well, I think it's uncomfortable. I don't know anything to be embarrassed about. You find documents lying around in some place. You had no idea that they were there. It's uncomfortable, but I wouldn't be embarrassed about it at all.
Congressman, have you spoken directly to President Biden about this?
No, I have not.
Okay, well, what would your message be to him if and when you do speak to him about this? I understand what you're saying. You believe that they handled it by the book. But as you know, the White House has been facing questions day after day, a lot of them that they don't have answers for. Why did the public learn about this nearly 2 months after the White House was aware? What did the president know? When did the president become aware of these classified documents in his possession? What would your counsel be to the president?
It's to be open and honest. The fact of the matter is, it's very easy to explain that you're moving out of an office and things like this sometimes happen, and just let the investigation go its way. Remember, you've got to demonstrate the intentions here. There's nothing to show that Joe Biden intended to do anything untoward. In fact, they seem to, as I said, follow the protocol in such things as this. And so I wouldn't tell them to be anything but open and honest about it.
Hey, Congressman, I understand your point that other people, may have packed up these boxes, but this is serious, sensitive material we're talking about. These are the top secrets of the government. So are you concerned that, and I understand you're talking about your office and packing that up, but in this case, this was the former vice president and the nation's top secrets. Shouldn't he have been more careful, particularly when he accused his predecessor of being irresponsible for his handling of classified material?
Well, I understand what you're saying. I don't know what it was. In fact, there have been discussions now, ever since I've been in the Congress, as to whether or not things are being ratcheted up to top secret, which may be a bit much. So I have no idea what these documents entail. And I've not seen any reporting that said there was something that could be compromising to the country. So I don't know what it is. But I do know the process needs to be looked at. We need to do what we can to make sure that these things stay secret if they are, in fact, secret.
Congressman, before we move on to some other topics, very quickly, do you think that the White House has been transparent enough, or do you worry that this undercuts President Biden at a critical moment when he's deciding whether to run for re-election?
Well, there's no question the reporting of all this undercuts all of our credibility as Democrats when it comes to this kind of an issue. Yes, it undercuts it, but the reporting sometimes is a little more sensational than it ought to be. I used to be in the business, so I understand that.
All right, Congressman, let's move on to the debt ceiling. This is a big issue that all of Washington's going to be facing. The Treasury Secretary saying that the nation could hit its debt limit this week with impacts around June. You've been in these fights before, but is this moment different? Could the country actually go over the cliff this time? How worried are you?
Well, the first thing I want people to understand that when you're talking about the debt ceiling, I have two problems with it. Number one, I have been advocating since before I got to Congress, and ever since I've been in the Congress. That's something we ought not have anyway. What other country has got a debt ceiling that's codified? And I haven't said that. You cannot play Russian roulette with this country's future, this country's credibility, and nothing can ruin credibility of a country quicker than for people not to be able to depend upon you to keep your word.
Congressman, I want to move on to Dr. Martin Luther King, but very quickly, should Democrats negotiate on this issue? Just yes or no? Should there be some concessions made?
We always negotiate. In a democracy, you always negotiate.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about Dr. Martin Luther King. You heard President Biden speak today, very different, and over the weekend, very different message on voting rights, not as fired up as we heard him last year. Why is that? Is that just an admission that with this divided Congress, it's going to be impossible to get something like voting rights legislation done?
It's going to be very, very hard to do.
Do you wish the president was more fired up on the issue, though?
Well, no. I think the president is being very calm, presidential, and we are going to do what we think we can get done. Last year, this time, people were saying that the Biden administration was not going to get anything through the Congress. And look what we did. And so I think we will get something done on this. There are ways that we can create a better climate in order to get it done. I just believe that the president is doing the right thing.
And Congressman, just finally, you grew up in South Carolina during Dr. King's civil rights era. What are your reflections today?
Well, today I want to remind people of King's letter from the Birmingham City Jail. In that letter, Dr. King warned us that he had come to the conclusion that the people of ill will in our society was making a much better use of time than the people of goodwill. And he warned us that we are going to be made to repent, not just for the vitriolic words and deeds of bad people, but for the appalling silence of good people. And so I would say on this King Day, looking at recent Supreme Court decisions, looking at legislatures, 49 legislatures over this country has passed suppression laws, we must break our silence. And I think that's what the president was talking about today. Silence gives consent. So when you stay silent about these suppression laws, you stay silent about a woman's right to choose, you are contributing to what's wrong with the country.
Congressman Jim Clyburn, we will leave it there. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.